G'day Battlers, and welcome to episode 29 of the G'day Battlers podcast. I am one of your two hosts, PvP Steve, joined by my other of the two hosts of the G'day Battlers podcast, Debbie Pebble. Hi,
Hello.
Debbie.
Hi.
Yeah, so we're a little bit out of practice, to say the least, because as much as the G'day Battlers podcast has still been going on for the last couple of months, it's been going on with a bit of a different flavour, to say the least.
Yeah, I like chocolate and vanilla, but it's just it's been a while since we've actually just had a chat. I think it's been fantastic that we've been interviewing all the world's competitors, but yeah, we thought it might be nice to just consolidate and have a chat and see what's the plans and what's going on leading up to Worlds.
Yeah, so we haven't actually had a sort of a quote unquote regular episode of the podcast since the 20th of April, which is
Oh wow.
almost 4 months ago. And between then and now, we've literally just been doing that Road to World series. For the most part, we've been uploading them every 2 weeks, although admittedly that last episode, we didn't quite wait that long because we figured we didn't quite need to. But yeah, we've essentially just come hot off the heels of, well, actually, I'm not sure if that regular episode was the last one that we did on like the Aussie locals, or if it was the one where we were talking about the Perth regional stream. Actually, I've just fact checked. It was the Perth regional stream episode, which that I think that one was still, while I was still concussed.
I was gonna say, I was like, was that post concussion? Because then you have no excuses now.
Yeah, I've had plenty of recovery time coming off of that one. But yeah, interviewed all of the world's competitors that are going to Worlds. Obviously, not all of the Aussies that qualified for Worlds are going.
Mm,
And we've had at least one that we did talk to that backed out of going. So Yusei was originally going to attend, but
mm,
due to a mix of personal shenanigans plus state of the game, he sort of decided that Worlds wasn't on the cards for him this time around. So
mhm,
unfortunately, New Zealand has lost a soldier, but I think we're still going to
mm.
have 9 people from the Oceanic region. Oh, no, 9 Australians plus 3 Kiwis. So we're
Yeah,
going to have 12, which is still pretty
yeah.
decent.
Well, it's still more than like last year in Yokohama, so that's a big one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, less Australians, but more Oceanic battlers,
It's
which
all
is
right. We'll
which is
accept it.
nice.
We'll accept.
We'll take the
Ooh.
credit. But
Suddenly, the New Zealand viewership is down.
well, the G'day Battlers hates New Zealand. Is that what's just come out? Is that
Oh no, are
wow?
we starting wars again?
It's been so long. I mean, wait, who are we starting war? Was it Caleb Peng that we were warring with before? Is that our
Well,
one-sided war?
apparently that's not an issue anymore, is it?
Yeah, maybe we've cozied up to the enemy on that front. But we'll get to that in a little bit of time. I think basically today we've got a couple of things to talk through. So number one, just a bit of a light recap of everything we've missed. Obviously, not bothering to go through like the regionals and NAIC and all of the rest because those things have been done to death. If you care about them, you've probably seen some stuff about them. We really are in pre-worlds mode. So really just sort of
Mhm,
brief recaps of some stuff that's gone on. Talk about our own plans for the World Championships this coming week because we are both
mhm,
attending. Um, and then also talking a little bit about the new information around the 2025 World's qualification system. Now, in my head, Debbie, and I don't know if
mm,
we didn't really talk about this, but I thought like, okay, when the Road to World series ends, like we'll have the perfect, like we can go in, we can talk about the World's qualification system, we can talk
mhm.
about all of the regionals that have been announced for the Oceanic region, and we can sort of talk about our plans and stuff.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so that was what was in my head because ESL Australia, and this is a rough quote. I don't remember the exact words, but the words are along the lines of, "We will have regional information to you by the end of July at the latest." And Debbie, I
Mm.
don't know if my calendar in front of me, but can you just tell me what the date is as we're recording this?
Today is the 10th of August.
Ah, hang on. And what month does August come after?
Uh, July.
Ah, yeah, okay. I thought that was the case. Um, yeah, so obviously we're past the deadline. We don't know about the regionals. Maybe like by some coincidence they happen to be announced between like now and when this episode is uploaded, there's not going to be that much of a gap between those two things, so it would be pretty unlikely. But hey, we'll wait and see when the regionals are actually announced. Yeah, we'll let you know when we know, I suppose. But
Yeah.
nothing to plan for around that yet, which is a little bit unfortunate, by the way. And I've talked about this before, but like
Mm.
the I would like to have a plan in place of what I'm gonna do this season. And so,
Mm.
I'm sort of looking at LAIC, and there's like I think the schedule sort of goes. There's a regional in Brazil, maybe,
Mhm.
and then no, it's not in Brazil. Maybe it's in Peru. But there's a regional somewhere in Latin America one weekend, and then the next weekend there's LAIC, and then the next weekend there's a regional in North America somewhere. So I was sort of eyeing that up, but obviously pretty dependent on when the Australian regionals actually are. But
Hmm. I too would like to know ahead of time just to like plan and just be
mm,
like, oh, okay, do we have one regional? Do we have four regionals? We don't even know at this stage, right?
mhm.
And just and I always bring this up, and you know what? I will still continue to bring this up. But being from Perth, I gotta fly to places. It's gonna take time. It just can't be like,
Hey,
oh, I'll just take a quick 1 hour like plane trip to Melbourne or something along
a
those lines.
quick
Nah.
1 hour plane trip. Like let's be clear here. That's still a flight. You're saying I have to fly to places. Do you know how many regionals I had to fly for this last season? It rhymes with
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of them. And how many regionals did you have to fly for this season, Debbie?
66% of them.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think it was all of them. That's right. That's what I thought.
Yeah, there's a reason why the last podcast was the Perth regional one.
I mean, you got it in quite a bit, because at least like I think I mentioned this to someone else, but like every episode of that Road to World series we did, the topic of conversation of Perth regionals would come up. And for so many of them, everyone was like, "Oh, I didn't really want to have to fly all the way out to Perth."
Yeah. And look, you guys can stay out. It's fine. We have a border for a reason. No. Yeah, look, I understand. It's a little bit far, but we're cool. We're cool here, guys. We're cool. We,
I mean,
we have
hey,
nice people.
yeah, and great hospitals. But
Um,
with
oh, okay.
But with all that said, and let's sort of before we jump into talking about 2025, this is classic like YouTuber slash content creator retention gaming, in which the thing that people probably care about the most is at the end of the podcast, so you have to keep listening, or you could
Mm,
skip, but don't do
mm.
that. Um,
Yeah, we don't have timestamps. We're not cool.
no, well, yeah, I guess we don't.
Nah.
But I mean, you can't really on like Spotify and stuff. Like, I guess you could
No,
just write
no.
them.
I
Uh,
suppose you could. I
but
mean,
then
YouTube you can do it, but
yeah, YouTube can do it.
eh,
Yeah,
they're used to it. They're used to it.
yeah. You guys have had to listen to what multiple hour and a half episodes in a row, no timestamps. We might get there eventually in the future. Maybe we even do. But at least for now, we're going to be talking a little bit about just recapping what's actually
Mhm,
happened over the last couple months since April.
mhm,
In number one, we did do all of the Road to Worlds episodes,
mhm.
including our massive episode with two-time regional champion, OCIC champion Yakovic, which I think was received very well.
Yeah, it was, I think, the people that did listen to it really gave a lot of good feedback, so
Mm.
must have been our best so far.
Yeah, that's at least the assumption I'm going off of. I
Mm,
have actually, because I've got a little stats spreadsheet on the back end looking at the
mhm.
sort of total listens across every episode. And because I've been paying attention to the YouTube views of that one, I actually saw it's been decreasing over the last couple of days. Like the view
Oh.
counter was originally higher and it's actually come down, which I think means that people have gone in for multiple viewings and YouTube's just removed those multiple views. So um, I guess
It
it's
was
so
that
good,
good.
so good that some people listen to it multiple times. So
They're like, "Oh,
uh,
maybe I missed something. Let me go back."
that's that's my only assumption.
Mm.
But we did it, gamers. So yeah, there's like it was literally across 8 episodes. Our original one was like sort of a double header in the sense that we were talking to Ric Flair on, and it was also the
Mhm,
Perth Regional Champion episode. So it was like two
mhm.
birds, one stone, sort of vibe. With of course the one and only Australian to hit top 16 in both world championships so far. One of the only two people in the world to hit top 16
Mm.
in both world championships alongside world champion Itzaxon. So,
I was waiting for that drop. I'm just like, I literally just listened to it of you saying that on Battle Cats. And I'm just like, "Hey, I know this stat. I know this stat because I just heard it like a minute ago."
I've been spitting out this stat for months. ever since I learned that it was an actual stat, I was like, oh dang.
Mm,
That's one that I'm going to keep trotting out, and keep trotting it out. I have because
yep.
it's a pretty cool stat.
Yeah,
I mean, just Rick and Axon.
yeah. Well, just I suppose now it's like leading into Worlds, like, can we retain that? That would be awesome.
Mm.
So you can reuse the stat for next season.
Yeah, so like if Rick could win, that'd be cool. But just like as long as him and Axon can both be in the top 16, that would make me happy. Because it's even
Mhm.
cooler stat if it's all 3 years.
True.
I think at the very
Oh, well.
least. But in addition to all of those episodes, we
Mhm.
most of the local season happened after we started that series. So we had locals at the start of March.
Correct.
Actually, so not
Mhm.
quite true because we had March, April, May was our entire
Mhm.
local season. June was
Yep.
obviously off month, and then July started back up the new season. And so April
Mhm.
20th technically passed the halfway mark, but we probably pre-recorded it, so it was probably about the halfway mark when we
Yeah.
actually recorded it. So
Mhm.
I guess just vibe wise, how do you think the local season sort of went over your end, both personally and for Perth as a whole?
Um, I think for us we did pretty well. It was very much a mad rush to try and get locals running and get as many points as possible. I don't think anyone in Perth maxed out their local points. Um,
I
we
don't
just didn't
think
get the
anyone in Australia maxed out their local points.
yeah, we just didn't get the opportunity to, like, it was just, I was kind of banking that June would have been another month
Yeah. Hmm.
of play. I didn't know, well, at the time, I didn't know that that was going to be like a rest month or like a break month. So I was like, oh, we can still get, a couple of cups and challenges done um, for the month of June. So possibly if that were to happen, that it would have maybe some of them would have maxed out, but it didn't. So and yeah, it was just a bit of like, okay, well, let's just do what we can with the time we have and with the stores that are interested. So um, I know for myself that I was pretty much may have burnt out a little bit because I was just like, okay, we just need to get it done. Let's just do the challenges. Let's just do the cups. Let's just book them in, just so that we can get those points, so that people could qualify. Um, and I think it worked out really well. I was pretty happy with the end result of the local scene in Perth. Would I do it again? Probably not in that fashion. Um, However, with the time constraints that we had, I think we did as well as we could from my end, and we had three qualify from Perth from all that. So we had Avrip, we had Z Tub, and we had They Love Jai. So having an extra like a world qualifier from last year when we just had regionals, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Jai isn't going to attend the World Championships, but in addition to sort of having those 3 qualifiers, Avrip also ended up being in the sort of top 4 and got what's it called? No, Travel Award is top 2. What was the travel credit?
Uh,
Travel
Travel
stipend?
stipend. Yeah.
Stipend.
Stipend's the correct term. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that was
Mhm.
3.5 grand for number 1 and 2, and then 1 grand for 3 and 4.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
1,000 USD.
Yeah, which then factor taxes in makes it about $1,000 AUD, sort
Yeah.
of cash in hand. Which
Mhm.
hey, we'll take $1,000. So I think Avrip should be very thankful for all of Debbie's work to sort of make sure that he could land a nice little grand in the piggy bank.
I think he
Uh,
owes me a chai latte at least.
at the very least. I mean, seriously, we'll all wait and see, I suppose. But yeah, ended up with 3 qualifiers, and of course, Debbie, you yourself ended up on the first page of the Oceanic leaderboard.
I did. I was like, I think you and I were not that we were racing, but it was very much like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be on the first page? And there was a few local tournaments, and I've been most of the local tournaments actually been judging, not playing,
Mm,
because I found that with the local stores that they didn't have someone that was proficient in Go. So I was like, oh, I'll just step up. I'll just judge. So at least they have someone to, do that for them. And it got towards the end of the season, and there was, I suppose, people drop out or less players. So I was like, oh, well, I'll start playing. I didn't really think that I would rank very high on the leaderboard, but I was just like, oh well, I'll give it a shot and start playing again. And by that point, other professors kind of got the hang of Go, so that they could step in and judge instead. So yeah, I stepped into a few cups and challenges, and during that season, you only needed to be, to run a tournament to have 4 people, and then all 4 people that turned up still would have got championship points. So I was running the most silliest of teams, and still getting awarded championship points. That doesn't fly anymore, but
yeah.
my team of 1 Clodsire and 5 fairies was really fun to run.
And how many points did that team alone net you?
What was it again? So it was a
So you
cup
would
and challenge.
so 32 from third and fourth in a cup, and 10 from third or fourth in a challenge. Is that
Yeah.
right? So yeah, that's a
Thanks,
nice little chunk
Clodsire.
of points of a
What a good
Clodsire
friend.
plus 5 fairies. I mean, over New South Wales way, I wasn't lucky enough to end up in any 4-person cups or challenges. We had too many people for any of those shenanigans.
Mm,
Technically, there were actually maybe one, maybe 2 tournaments that did only have 4 people, but they were much further away from me. I think it was
mm,
sort of like the Sydney guys that ended up attending. They pretty much travelled as far to that local as I travelled to Sydney. A little
yep.
bit less actually, but they still had to make a pretty big trek out there, a little bit further south. And I think it was also maybe it was like a Friday or something. So I was like, yeah, I'm not
Mm,
I'm not getting out there. But
no.
regardless, I still picked up some points at the chups and challenges we did have. I actually scrolled through my Twitter the other day to because luckily, like I sort of tweet out all of the sort of big results, partially because then I can tell everyone that I got championship points with Whalmer, but also
Mm,
partially because it actually keeps a really nice record for me of both the teams that I was running and then also
mhm,
sort of the results, how things actually added up. Because there's not that convenient of a way to sort of see it on the back end. Like I know
mm,
you can sort of go into these individual local event link thingos and actually take a look, but it's just more convenient to me to sort of have it in tweet form so that the result is
mhm.
attached to the time that's attached to the team. And
Yep.
I think like both of my challenge placements were with Whalmer. Um, 2 of my placements with Bastiodon. I think I actually placed third in a cup. The first cup in Australia, I think it actually was, with
Mm.
Clodsire and Bastiodon. So,
Oh,
uh,
Clodside Basti core, who knew?
oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Gone 1001 and Stumpy 2517 were not that keen on my Clodsire Basti team. I think Clodsire landed on a Shadow Magnezone one time too many between those 2 battles. But hey, I don't hate the player, hate the game.
I believe like something from Stumpy was like Steve's team should have been illegal.
Yeah, look, we meme our wins when we can. I think I only sort of got I actually I got a third place in the first cup in Australia and the first challenge in Australia, I think. So
Mm,
I'm a trendsetter, and then
yeah.
never again. But actually, I think I placed fourth with a cup where I just copied pasted Wadage's team from
Mm,
like Pittsburgh, the very first regional of the season, which was like 6 months out of date at the time. But I
mhm,
was like, I wanted to run something a little goofy, and I thought that was a little goofy to just run a very, very old regional winner team.
mhm,
And I think it was maybe in the lead up to it was somewhere around the time that I did the World Champion Brawl stream.
mhm.
And originally, Wadaj was going to compete in that tournament. But
Yeah.
then he ended up, backing down from the game. And so
Mhm,
didn't end up jumping in. But I still gave it a run. But yeah, I didn't end up with as many. I ended up with 84 championship points, which I was still
mhm.
pretty stoked with, to be honest.
Yeah.
Uh, but hey, we. Oh, well, it turns out it wasn't enough to qualify for Worlds, but uh, I thought I was close. Alas.
Well, yeah. Well, what 250 championship points? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was like I was over a third of the way there, I think.
hmm.
So basically, almost there is how I'm
Mm.
going to put it down. But yeah, obviously locals have started back up this season as well. Maybe I don't know. Do we take a little detour to talk about the new 2025 thingos, or do we talk about the other stuff that's sort of been going on the
We might
last
as well
couple of months?
detour.
Okay, let's talk about the 2025 World Qualification thingo because it is going to be a little bit different this season than the last. So, changed new. I mean, and to be honest, I'm assuming most people are quite up on this, but I know that a few people that I've been speaking to at a couple of locals this season are still a little unsure. There's actually still been a little bit of confusion about how
Mm.
this actually works. So I think it's worthwhile just giving it a sort of really brief run through so that the people that are, well up on it, they don't have to be bored for too long or they don't have to skip that far ahead. So
Mhm.
here's the sort of, here are the highlights. So number one, it's no longer a championship point certain number that you have to hit to qualify for Worlds. Instead, the 10 top battlers from the Oceanic region will based on championship points will qualify in
Mhm.
addition to any of the regional or international champions. Those regional and international champions don't count towards the 10-person limit. So say Rick Flairion wins every regional this season, then he'll qualify for Worlds based on that. And then assume he's number one on the leaderboard, then number 2 through 11 will all qualify for Worlds as well.
Mhm.
Um, that's sort of the main crux of it, and there's different amounts of people qualifying from different regions. But today, I mean, again, if you're coming from other regions, you probably are well aware. But just it's the G'day Battlers podcast. We can do a little bit of an oceanic focus. That's allowed. You can just Google Pokemon Elite Championship Points 2025, and the first link that comes up will have all of the stats as well. In addition to that change, there's going to be travel awards.
Mm.
So at the end of, well, I mean, now that we've sort of delayed this particular episode quite a bit, we actually have more information. So essentially, the way this works is that, uh, well, we'll talk retros. Once every IC happens. So
Mhm.
NAIC just happened at the end of this 2024 season. All championship points gained from NAIC up to the previous IC, which was EUIC at the start of the year, all championship points earned in that window go to their separate leaderboard. So a championship point leaderboard just for LAIC, just for that period of time. And the top 4 trainers in every region will receive a travel award to go to the next international championship. It's a little
Mm.
confusing, speaking it out in words, but I think it's pretty helpful with a diagram. But essentially, to talk about it this season, LAIC is in November. So you have between now or since June, mid June. So
Mm.
really all season. So from the July locals all the way up until LAIC to try and get a championship point, try and get a travel award for the next IC, which is EUIC after
Yeah.
LAIC. And then the
Mhm.
window between LAIC and EUIC gets a travel award for NAIC, and so on and so on and so on. But because this is a new system, it's been applied retroactively. And so
Mhm.
4 people are receiving a travel award that were not trying to receive a travel award.
Mm. But I mean, it's
Uh,
still cool. Like, as in, to especially living in Australia and New Zealand, where we're so far from everything, to be even granted a travel award. So, like, to that to come to go, that's awesome, and come to Oceania, also awesome. But yeah, I think the fact that it was retrospectively, like, put, means that we didn't really have a chance to like fight for it, or like,
Mm.
if we knew about it, yeah, I would want to work harder for 3,500. Like,
Yeah.
even, like, because it's just a small period of time, you could really strategically even like go hard on locals per se, like, as an example, and just try and push for points and try to get in that top four, because yeah, we didn't have any regionals, well, besides Perth.
Whoa,
So
whoa! Are you dissing on Perth now? Is this
no, no,
Perth
no, no, no,
hate
no,
coming
no,
from
no,
Devil
no, no,
Devil?
no, no,
Does Perth
no.
regional not
I'm gonna
actually count
cut
as
the.
a regional?
I'm gonna cut this out of this. I'm gonna cut this out of the podcast.
Don't you dare! Um, I'm gonna keep making reference to it, and it's gonna make no sense if it's cut out.
No.
Um, but yeah, so as Debbie said, just in that segment immediately before now, it was $3,500 travel award that goes to each of the top four. And so, yeah, this one period essentially just had Perth regionals and our entire local season. That was the window for Australia. So all of the Melbourne regional, nothing. Brisbane regional, useless. So too bad, so sad for Jakobovic, who had a lot of championship points at the start of the season, not so much in this
He could
particular
have
random window.
gone. He could have gone for the three-peat. We asked him. We told him.
The fans were demanding the three-peat attempt, but yeah, it has meant that the travel
Oh
award
no,
is
Perth is
not
too
going that way.
far.
Well, only one person that actually got the travel award traveled to Perth. Let's make that clear. So number one was Rick Flareon in this particular
Mm,
window, so he gets a travel award. Then two Kiwis, so we had Yusei gets a travel award and Bomatsu
mhm,
get a travel award because
mhm,
all of their locals happened to be in that window. So
mhm,
and that's
mhm.
all they did. So it was basically their entire like it's everything they did to qualify for
Yeah.
this season was pretty much in that window.
Mhm,
And then Zetab, who,
mhm.
Perth local, ended up picking up the travel award as well. But, again, it's almost random that these four people actually got the travel award. Like,
Mm.
Avrip is probably the biggest heartbreak on this leaderboard as someone who is literally 9 championship points away from fourth place. If he came
Yeah.
fourth place in one more local, like one more challenge, then he would all of a sudden get $3,500. And like that's not something he knew that he would have to do. like
Yeah, let's not bring it up to him, because I won't hear the end of it. No, I can hear it now. Can we just not?
like it's not like it's your fault or anything at all. It's just like
Do you
the
think that he will not complain to me?
oh, I'm surprised if he hasn't already. Quite frankly,
I have kept it very quiet.
well, hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast
No,
because
no, no, no,
otherwise,
no. He's too busy in Sydney.
oh, phew, close one. But yeah, it's I I'm sort of with you in that I think it's really awesome that we get travel awards. I think it's really cool that we can start to get some oceanic representation at all of these international championships. I just feel like it's a little bit unfair
Yeah.
how they've sort of distributed it this time. And like
Mm,
my take, I guess, is I would have really liked them to have announced this earlier. So if they
mm.
announced that the 2025 season was going to have travel awards, they could have announced that before EUIC or even at EUIC.
Yeah.
And then, we would all sort of know, oh, the next couple of months we really have to grind for championship points. And like that doesn't
Mhm.
spoil how the season is going to run. They don't have
No.
to announce all of the stuff about how it's going to be top 10 instead of classic just hit a certain number. Like, it would have been nice. Now, whenever Pokemon company is involved, I know there's like a gazillion levels of approval and stuff. So it's not as simple as like, oh, they should have just told us.
Mhm.
But in my ideal world, there would have been room for that to have been announced earlier. Would have been the ideal path in my head. But, you know, in the universe where it was impossible for them to announce it any earlier, it's better that we have it than we don't, you know?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I kind of interpret it as like it would be nice to know, but it's a bonus. and just kind of like congratulations to the top 4 in this category, and like,
Hmm.
having that is still awesome. I just, yeah, I think from my perspective is it's like cool bonus. I just don't recognize it, I suppose. I mean, like, don't get
Mm.
me wrong, these 4 players are great players. It's just the
Yeah.
fact that I'm like, well, they weren't fighting for this, so they didn't even
Yeah.
know about it. So
I
it's
I
just
don't put
there.
respect on it necessarily. It's very much just like,
Mm,
oh, these four have been randomly selected to get, get $3,500 to attend LAIC. That's
yeah.
kind of how I view it.
Yeah.
But it's not just the top four because also the top 16 get priority registration for LAIC. Um, Debbie, you seem to be laughing. Why
Oh,
the laugh?
yeah, top 16 in this leaderboard, hey?
Yeah. Wait, what? Why? Where were you on the leaderboard?
Um, yeah, 17.
Oh. Oh, it looks like you only needed 5 more championship points to
So
land
who
yourself.
who has a real heartbreak here? Let's be honest.
Okay. I mean, are you looking at LAIC? Is that a potential option? If you were in the priority rego zone, would you attend LAIC?
I would need a strong incentive to.
That sounds like a no. That sounds like
Look,
priority
that's
registration is not enough.
open to interpretation.
Okay, well, I'm going to interpret it as no. Uh, but I will
That would
say,
be correct.
yeah, that's what I thought.
It
I
would have
actually
been
was
cool.
hoping. Oh
Mm,
yeah, it would be cool. But I like in the back of my head, I kind of do want to attend a little bit.
mm-mm.
And so I'm at 19th on the leaderboard. Again,
Yeah.
almost random chance in that we weren't really going for it or anything. Maybe if I was really trying to grind for top 16, I actually would have attended. I would have made the trek out to those locals a little bit further away, but a bit more closer to guaranteed points
Mm,
to try and get some points going. It would have been like a 5-hour trek, but it would have been worth it for the peace of mind of guaranteed registration. Just because that's one of the other concerns, and it's sort of unclear at this stage how much we should be concerned or not. Again, we're sort
mm.
of just don't have any communication at this stage. But in the last season, LAIC hit the player cap,
Yes.
EUIC hit the player cap. Now,
Mhm.
NAIC didn't. But
Mm,
if you want to attend these international championship points because you go to an IC, you try and get some points, it puts you at a really real head start for the next travel award to the next IC. You get that, you go to EUIC, you pick up a lot of points. You try and get the travel award again for NAIC with your nice head start from EUIC, and you essentially just attend a ton of these ICs. You get a bunch of points. You put yourself in a really good position to just essentially get one of the qualification spots. Um, one of the 10 from the Oceanic region,
mhm,
assuming you don't win a tournament.
mhm.
Um, you sort of want to be able to put yourself on that cycle if you really care.
Yeah.
And because the first travel award has almost been given out randomly, you sort of
Mhm,
miss that for one. So, shout out
mhm,
to Rick, Yusei, Ztab, and Bomatsu who have that
mhm,
advantage because maybe,
mhm,
someone else on the list, they can't afford to go to LAIC without the travel award. Like it's quite an
mhm,
important piece. And so, maybe if they fought for it, they might be able to get it. They might be able to get on that treadmill. And, the rich get richer sort of vibe.
mhm.
But with the priority registration as well, like happy days for the top 16. But for someone like me who is not in the top 16 that doesn't have priority registration and has never had to fight for an IC spot before, like we haven't, we didn't have to do that at OCIC. We didn't have to fight for the rego spots. uh,
No.
there was a last minute scramble to be fair for some of these tournaments, but that's like late game. Like you could have regoed for the last 3 weeks, and now there's only 2 spots left. So you should nab them
Mhm,
now. Like if you get it at the start, there's never been a problem in our region. Um, well, technically, at the very first Perth 2022 regional, right, where they gave us like I don't know 2 spots or whatever. Or actually,
it
Melbourne
was
was the
Melbourne
problem.
that yeah, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
that capped out at like 14 or whatever
Yeah, yeah,
before they
yeah.
expanded it out. But anyway, So me, who's like, oh, I kind of want to attend LAIC, I am a little concerned that I won't be able to register. And so, I don't really want to like lock in travel plans. I don't want to, book flights accommodation to a tournament that I might not even get to play in. So it's kind of like, well,
Mm,
with the current system encourages you to go to ICs to get on that sort of treadmill. So
mm-hmm.
it would be good, and I've heard Speediest Chief say this as well, if the player cups were higher going into this season,
Mm,
because TPCI is encouraging people to go. There's more people that will want to go, so you
mm,
should let them play if possible.
yeah,
And obviously it depends on like, the venue size and whatnot, but
yeah.
I'm very hopeful that they do raise the player caps, because otherwise it feels like it's just going to be taken off the cards for a lot of people almost unfairly.
Mm, yeah. It's just, I feel like the game is growing so quickly that they kind of just trying to. I, they really do need to one expand these like ICs, but also like the fact that only the top 10 in Oceania get to go to Worlds. They're really trying to cull a lot of things down at the same time. So I just don't know where their heads at with everything. They're like, oh, I encourage you to play, but if you want to go to Worlds, only like this amount. I mean, Australia in the grand scheme of things hasn't been trimmed that hard compared to the other regions or other games.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's just kind of like, okay, I kind of see what the direction is, but I'm also curious, like, what's the long term plan?
Yeah, and like Go is sort of caught a stray shot here in some sense, because it was really the other games that have grown by dramatic amounts, and they were really trying to stifle the growth of the other games in terms of the amount of players attending Worlds. And so, in Go, at the very least, EU has lost spots, LATAM has lost spots, Oceania has lost spots. NA is actually gaining spots. So, that's just one little fun fact, that there's actually going to be more Americans and more North Americans attending Worlds next year than this year. So that's, okay,
Yeah.
whatever that's about. Cool. But anyway, um, with that out of the way, like Pokemon Go isn't affected that much compared to the other games, as you said. They're like,
Mm.
I forget what the actual number is, but I remember hearing it, and maybe you'll have the vague number in your head as well. But like, I was hearing someone talk about Australian TCG, and they were like, this season we had, I don't know, 100 people qualify for Worlds. This next season they've given us 20 slots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, that is a cull, to say the least.
Hmm.
So they've really, Worlds have become so much harder to achieve for them.
Hmm.
At least, at least for us, we haven't been cut down by that much.
Yeah.
It
I've
is going to be
heard
smaller, but
No, no, it is going to be smaller. I just from the TCG side of things, I've heard from even our locals that do play TCG, that are qualified for Worlds this season. That they're just like, well, Worlds is never happening again, so I'm going to start doing the Professor program just in
mm,
hopes of being invited back to Worlds because they know that they're like, oh, I'm good, but I'm not great. So
mm,
I'm good enough for Worlds, but now with this current cutoff, but not for the next season. So I was like, oh, okay. Just really interested to know that, like, I was like, oh, okay, they're pivoting so they can still attend or still go and still enjoy themselves, or still be part of the community. But yeah, it really did, um, yeah, put a dagger through.
hmm.
Because even the VG side of things, that they had a big changeover with their qualification as well, to be part of the league system, as well. So yeah, it's a big shake up on that side of things. Again, we're doing okay. We can complain, but we're doing okay in Go.
Yeah, and I think we're allowed to it's not like, it's one of those things where someone else can have a bigger problem than you, but it doesn't mean that you can't be unhappy with the situation. It's
Mm-mm.
still a negative to us. Like it's moving in the direction that we don't necessarily want it to go.
Yeah.
And the counter argument that I've seen, Yakko and a lot of other people sort of mention, is that worlds should be hard to qualify for, and so they don't
Mm.
particularly mind with the reduction. And in some sense, I agree. But this is where one of the other criticisms of the new system comes up, and one that I certainly quite heavily subscribe to. I've I've been quite vocal on it ever since it was announced.
Mm.
But it is sort of the toxicity argument. And so in this season, we're at the end of the season. We've got, I don't know, 14 people qualified, or 15 people qualified, and Fish and Ahita traveled over to Bologna regional, which happened
Mhm.
after locals all finished up, and he, needed to get a certain number of championship points to qualify for Worlds. Now,
Mhm.
unfortunately, he didn't get there, but while he was competing, like at home, we could all be sort of, cheering for him in the sense that, like, yeah, like, oh, we hope you get points so that we get one more Australian competing at Worlds. So it was all very like there was no reason to root against him. In the new season, if you're number 10 on the leaderboard, so at the moment you've got an invite. If number 11 goes over to late game NAIC, last tournament of the season, last chance to get points, and if they hit top 16, they take your spot on the leaderboard and they take your world's qualification invitation, that would suck. And so you're rooting against them. You're like, I do not want this person to do well. I want them to fail so that I get the world's qualification.
Mm.
And that's just not something that I like the idea of. It's also
Yeah.
something that like I don't like the idea of. Like going into this season, I was playing with the idea of trying to qualify for worlds myself. When you throw in the aspect of like, oh, me going to worlds directly means that someone else isn't going to worlds, I don't know if I like it as much.
Mm. No, I agree. It is very much like you got to knock someone out to put yourself in. Um, if like you're not in that top 10 already, and just to sustain that. Another point that was brought up that I saw on Twitter was people really enjoying the aspect of when we did have like a certain number of CP to achieve, it means that you're set, right? So you can start making your plans and you can start like booking your travel early and booking hotels and things, and you can just kind of kick back a little bit. So you can be like, all right, I've done my Pokemon bit for the season. I'm just going to go chill with my family and then, still maybe play a couple of locals, but don't have to go so hard with them. With this kind of system we've got now, it means that you've got to play the whole season. You don't know if you qualify until right at the end. So I think even that is a different like shift as well, like a mindset shift of being like, okay, well, you got to be consistent throughout the whole year. You can't actually have an off season.
Hmm.
It is season all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, it's unfortunate. Like, obviously, we'll have to wait and see how it all actually plays out. But I think it's also going to mean that, like, people might attend tournaments and locals to try and stop other people from getting points. So, and
Mm,
I'm just going to paint a hypothetical here. Say, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but say Rick Flareon is at 10th place and Gone 1000,
ridiculous.
ridiculous, and Gone 1001 is at 11th, and there's one
Mm,
local left of the season. And like, if Gon gets a cup win here, then he takes over Ric Flareon and he takes that cup spot. Well, Ric Flareon is going to try and go to this local and make sure under any circumstance that he beats Gon to a pulp to make sure that he can't get the points, that he doesn't qualify for Worlds, and just block him from doing so, which is another aspect of like, obviously, like these are all hypotheticals, but it's stuff that the new system allows to happen or sort of sets up an environment where it can happen, which
mm.
I'm not a big fan of. And so my thinking was it would, if they wanted to reduce the number of people attending Worlds, was you should just increase the championship points required to qualify for Worlds. Now that, as much as it solves that issue in my head, it makes things less toxic. It doesn't make it us against them. It makes it still very camaraderie, all supporting each other. That bit is ticked off. What it doesn't tick off is the other benefit that they haven't talked about publicly, but one of TPCI's motivations for doing so was probably because it gives them more control over how many people they have to cater for the World Championships. So
Mm.
they essentially know how many people are going to be attending Worlds 2025 for all games. And with that knowledge, they can, have a much easier time booking venues and like knowing how many devices they need, how many judges they need. It
Mm.
makes it a lot easier logistically for them, at the consequence of, in my mind, making it a worse player experience for us through the season to qualify.
Yeah, it is. we'll just have to see and just give feedback. I think like it's all very brand new at the moment, and yeah, we'll just have to see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously we don't know what Australian regionals are, how many Australian regionals we're going to get, whether we maybe even get a New Zealand regional, which would be really cool and really helpful, seeing as this season it is literally like, if you do the maths, it's literally impossible for someone from New Zealand to qualify just off of locals. So you do need some level of regional pointage. Um,
Mm,
so when they're announced, we'll wait and see. My money from the get go was mid August, so we'll see if we sort of get that info between now and the World Championships. Maybe our post Worlds episode will actually have some regional news to talk about. Maybe we'll find out, I guess.
maybe we'll
But
see.
yeah.
Something to else to also to note for this 2025 season is that locals have been nerfed.
Mm.
I think we briefly touched on it earlier, but instead of where I mentioned about my Clodsire and fairies, that the top or like it's not everyone that gets championship points with just like a basic player group of 4 now. It's only the top 2 get championship points. If you have like 8 players, only the top 4 will get championship points. So it's not guaranteed you get championship points for just attending a 4-person local
Hmm.
now, and only 4 cups and 4 challenges, or the uh, top, I suppose, like
Sure.
your placing of
Yeah.
um,
Best
the
finishes.
best finishes. Yeah, I was trying to find the word for it. Um, only count. So locals are, I suppose, like nerfed in a way that if you are a top player and that you can pretty much max out your locals fairly quickly. And from a person like myself that organizes a lot in the local scene, I'm just like, well, we're okay for now, but what happens 6 months afterwards when most of the top players all max out?
Mm.
um, what's going to happen for the last 6 months of the season, because what incentive is it for them to continue to play? I mean, besides things like in-store credit and just practicing and just for the joy of the community, but the actual leaderboard sense of things, I'm just like, well, they're not going to have anything more on that. So yeah, it's just kind of like, from our perspective, being like, oh well, there's no real rush for them to, they can take an off month or an off day. um so I mean, that's still okay, but it's also kind of like, well, for the local scene, we want it to grow, we don't want people dropping off. So yeah, it'll be interesting, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Now, one incentive is the travel award. So technically, like, you do all of your cups and challenges for one travel award. And then, like, once LAIC hits in November, even if you've maxed out your cups and challenges for the world's qualification, it sort of resets the bar for the NAIC travel award leaderboard. So you can sort of try and max your cups and challenges again. But that'll happen 3 times during the season, and the third time it'll be for next season's presumed LAIC. So, it's all a bit janky, but yeah, we'll just have to sort of
Mm.
wait and see how it does all play out. And we'll keep you updated when new stuff does happen. I mean, I know like we haven't really kept you updated in the sense that this news came out quite a while ago, but we're doing the Road Towards thing, so we
Mhm.
were waiting for the regional news, but here we are. So yeah, congrats to the top 4 getting travel awards for LAIC, and we'll see how the season goes. Now back to, like, that was a detour, and I also thought we were going to sort of breeze through it. We sort of did it. We spent a bit of time on it, so um, let's instead sort of breeze through all of the other stuff that's been going on since we
Mhm.
last did our normal episode. And we'll take the easy segue here and talk about, have you had any locals happen this season so far?
For us, yes. So we've had, what are we now? We're August. So July, we had a cup and 3 challenges. For the month of August will be the same, 3 challenges and a cup, and it'll be the same in September. But yeah, 4, 5 challenges already, and a
I'm
cup.
so jealous. That's insane. That's absolute insanity. I cannot believe
Yeah. If you
there's
look
so
at the
much stuff.
Oceania leaderboard, like for right now, the new like refresh leaderboard, I'm pretty sure Z-Tub's sitting at the top or something along those
Well,
lines. Like,
you can't yet. Like it doesn't exist yet. There is
doesn't
no
it?
leaderboard. Nah,
Was I
there's.
looking at something that he no? Yeah, no, that's correct.
Were you looking at quick
No, yeah.
internal maths? I don't, because Ric
What was he
Flair
looking
might give
at?
him a run for his money.
What was he looking at? He sent me something that he was sitting on the top of the leaderboard, and I was like, oh, cool.
Um,
Um,
I don't know because it's not on the website. That's for sure.
I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I'd imagine that he there.
Yeah, I reckon it'll probably Z-Tub, Avrip, and Ric Flair, and I think are going to be hanging out the top at the moment. Obviously, still early days, but yeah, Ric Flair on his, he picked up a challenge win, cup win. He's winning it all. Although he didn't actually win the last cup, so we just had a 2 cup 1 challenge weekend, and he did, which is like the biggest weekend of all time in New South Wales. Like that's wild. But he picked up the first challenge win. He picked up the first cup win, but then at the second cup was much more entertaining in the sense that one of my longtime rivals, and that he beats me every single time we have to face each other in locals, which is all the time. Mika or Micah. His name's Michael, so I don't actually know if it's Mika or Micah. I should probably ask at some point, but also at this point I'm too afraid to ask. But we ended up with a grand finals in that cup, which was a 12-person cup, like just closing in on the 14-person Perth Regionals Cup. We're getting there. We'll pass it one day for the biggest local in Australia. But he had to play his partner in the grand finals, so it was, which was absolutely awesome. It's like we were watching, and sort of Agent Magikarp, his partner Christine beat Agent Magikarp in the semis, and so then we were like, oh, we really want Mika to beat Ric Flair in the other semifinals that they can play. And it was pretty cool to watch, and she ended up taking it out as well, which was really cool. But yeah, we don't really know where the championship points all land. I came dead last in that tournament, by the way. Literally 12th out of 12. It was not it's not my tournament, to say the least. But
you're just warming up.
Yeah.
You're just warming up. Yeah. You're just letting them go ahead and be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's all about that false sense of security, so they don't feel the need to attend future locals, and then I can just claw up from the backside. But although actually, mate, I know it's not. I'm not warming up. I'm on a downward slide because the local before that, I missed the first cup and challenge because I had other commitments with the fam. But the previous local I attended back in June, I was in the finals against Ric Flairion, and he won a game, I won a game. We're at 1-1 in the finals. Whoever wins this last game wins. And if I lose, I drop down to 3rd place. And I think we had 6, so I wouldn't have got championship points. And I'm in a pretty good spot. I read his team right. I know what he's going to do. He tries to make a catch. I don't let him get the catch. We get down to the final bit, and I just need to undercharge a Focus Blast onto his Lickitung. And if I get that undercharge, I win the game. I didn't undercharge enough. And I was devastated. I was like, I could have won the first challenge the first local in Australia this season. I could have beat Ric Flairion. This could have been sick. Think of the YouTube clickbait. But instead...
I think Rick has made a point to try and win against YouTubers, is what I heard.
Yeah, he had to, he's beaten me and Zoe quite a few times in a row. After, actually, it was the very first local in Australia last season where I did end up beating Ric Flair and with Wailmer, and that was, that YouTube video obviously got put up with the Ric Flair on Twitter clickbait. So maybe I deserve this. This is
Look,
what I had
I'm
coming.
just saying the universe does things. just I don't know, maybe not. Who knows? It could be leading you down somewhere else. Maybe
the greatest comeback story of all time. That's You're saying,
Stay tuned. This time next year. Like this time next year, we'll see where you're at.
oh man.
10th,
Uh,
10th of August, 2025. All right, we'll see where you're sitting
look,
at.
no one needs to keep that on their calendar.
Yeah.
We'll see how we go. But
Wade, I know
yeah.
you're listening. Keep it in your calendar.
No, Wade's busy, man. Wade's having a kid, so he doesn't have time to put that thing in the
He
calendar.
totally he totally is
That's
putting it in his calendar right now
oh,
while he's
don't do
driving to his
Wade.
workplace.
Oh yeah, no, you're definitely listening to this in the car. You don't need to put anything in. It's cool.
Yep. Hey
But
Siri, make the note of this date.
oh no. Oh my gosh, I just realized that potential. We could really, hey Siri, with to anyone that's like listening through cars and stuff or out loud, I suppose.
Oh.
That's a power that I'm going to keep in the back pocket for later.
Yep.
But yeah, essentially that's all of the play Pokemon Oceanic news we really have without knowing the regionals. And I think we probably didn't stress this enough at the start of the episode, but we very much went into this particular one knowing that it was going to be a little bit of a ramble fest, a little bit of a general catch up sesh. So
Oh.
if you're expecting any sort of order or schematic to this episode, maybe you jumped in during the Road to World series and you were like, oh, this is structured somewhat linearly. That not doesn't tend to be how we roll. So
Obviously
apologies.
has not stepped into a Steve Twitch stream. Which did you know that Steve's on
Uh,
Twitch?
wow, that's
Twitch.tv
crazy.
slash
Anyway,
PPC.
speaking of self plugs, there are a few other things that have sort of been going on in the last couple of months. I think one of them is like the APAC Clash of the Champions, which you can go watch the VOD on YouTube if you really want. With the 6 Asian tournament champions
Mhm.
from Taiwan, Thailand, India, South Korea, the APAC region, which is just a conglomerate of a couple of other ones. And I've missed one, but I wasn't paying enough attention to the word. Indonesia is the other one. And then the winner of the Japan PJCS was also invited, but decided not to participate. But that's out there if you want to watch some of the Asian battlers who don't really get much of a spotlight to see what they can actually do. You can watch some of
Mhm.
that. Similar vein, there was the Dracoviz Journey to Worlds tournament. Now, I don't think that VOD is on YouTube. I sent the Dracoviz team a message saying, like, hey, can we like get that VOD somewhere?
Hmm.
But that didn't seem to go anywhere. I think it went the same place as all of my DMs to Anacor in the last 2 months, meaning
The
nowhere.
Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, exactly right. Just has all these strands and hanging in the back rooms. So no response on any of that stuff. But maybe if it comes back up, it'll be well worth a watch as well.
Mhm.
And the other tournament that went on in the last couple months was one that Debbie and I both competed in, which was the Clash of the Casters. Now,
Yeah, that was fun. Thanks for the invite.
oh, you're welcome. So for those who don't know what that is, one, please follow me on Twitter. That would be really, really nice and cool, and you won't miss
Mhm.
these announcements. But also, essentially, I invited every Play Pokemon caster from the 2024 season from all around the world, which it included the Perth Regional Championships. So myself, Debbie, Fishy Legs were all invited. Rise to Occasion was already invited because he casted one of the North American regionals. And then Zoe Two Dots was also in for some Oceanic rep after hosting EUIC. And I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again. My tournament, my rules. So definitely counted.
Mhm, mhm.
So ended up with 24 casters, and we essentially did 5 rounds of Swiss. So we'll talk about sort of how our battles went, but just wanted to also highlight the thing that I thought was really cool about this tournament, on top of just having all of these really cool people, but it was having a casting team entirely built out of world champions. Because Fishy Legs 2, in the sort of Clash of the Casters chat, he was sort of like, if all of the casters are here, then who is going to cast this tournament? And in
Mm,
my head, there was only one answer, and it was It's Axon. I want It's
mhm.
Axon to cast this thing. So I messaged Axon. He was like, "Yep, that sounds awesome. As let me know. I'm free all of these times, so like should be good." And I was like, "Great." And then I was like, "Okay, now I need other casters." And I was like, "Well,
Mm,
we've already got Axon. Let's ask other Play Pokemon World Champions Emmy Weedle and Dancing Rob," and they were both
yep.
keen. And then I was like, okay, well, we're doing 2 streams. So like those 3 can cast one. Axon ended up casting both. And then the other
Mhm.
stream, I ended up going to Sylph Arena World Champions, Speediest Chief 2 and Dunebug 97.
Mhm.
And so they jumped in to cast as well. So I just thought that was really cool,
Yeah.
personally. But
I think there was a lot of people asking, going, "What do you mean Speedius is casting? He should be playing."
yeah, I knew that was going to be divisive from the get go, but yeah, Speedy was sort of traveling through South America and sort of was like, I don't think I'm going to have the internet to play. Which, to be honest, I think it was for the betterment of all of the competitors because he's the greatest dodger that the world has ever seen. If you're trying to schedule a match with Speediest Chief, good luck. So I think we maybe benefited by keeping him on the casting desk. But we also had people from like Nighttime Clasher was playing from China. Like he was getting through the Great Firewall to still manage to play this tournament.
Mhm, mhm,
Lundberg was playing from Mauritius. But anyway,
mhm.
um, so how did the tournament go for you, Deborah?
I did better than I thought. I think going into it, I was just like, "Oh, this is going to be really tough." And because of that, I brought in a team that I knew was very polarizing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That doesn't sound like you at all.
nah. I Because when you asked me first, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, cool, cool, cool. I'll do it for the funsies. I'll do it for the memes." And then I didn't realize people were taking this seriously.
Oh.
So, so when I made my team, I was just like, yeah, 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 I'll bring in not only my favorites, but like things that I think that were just funny. I think as you've coined it very much so on stream, it was purely RPS
Yeah.
of like Wigglytuff, Bastiodon, Annihilate, Dugong,
Uh,
Skarmory, and I think there
Shadow
was,
Swampert. Yeah.
yeah, Shadow Swampert. And I was just like, yeah, let's roll with this. It's so um I had fun. Like honestly, yeah, I had good I had a lot of fun. Uh, the most fun I had was, which was the one that was streamed, was against Fishy Legs 2. Which Fishy Legs 2, if you're listening, again, I owe you cookies and I will bake them tomorrow and you'll get them on Monday at the airport. But, but yeah, it's just yeah, good old RPS. It's not because like, he's a fantastic player. Because and I know I couldn't beat him on skill. I just had to beat him on luck. So yeah, that went my way, which I thought was funny. And yeah, and also thank you for the guy in chat during the stream that was so defending me. He was
Oh
just
my
like,
gosh.
no, no.
Yeah.
Actually, he was just like, why are you guys bagging on Debbie? Like, yes, it was RPS, but she still won. I was like, dude, it's okay. They're not bagging. They're good. They're good. We're good.
Yeah, because I was especially bagging you out. I was like, this is hard RPS. Like, obviously, she's just, Debbie Pebble, well known for RPS, yada yada yada. And yeah, they came to your defense, and I was like, I think Adelian, one of the other casters and competitors, was like in chat saying like, It's cool, they're friends," and,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
and then I jumped in. It's like, I swear we're friends. This isn't. This is okay.
It's okay.
Uh,
We're Australian. It's really
yeah.
just affection here.
It's just the bands.
Mhm, mhm.
uh, but yeah, that was pretty funny. Fishy Legs did send me a DM, hoping that one of his other actually really good battles was shown on stream. And then I gave him the bad news. um, he was like, "Oh, that's the last thing I wanted." But in fact, like the way that it like sort of all worked out, like he wanted his battles against Tomahawk streamed.
Mhm,
Which he ended up 3-0ing, I think. But
mhm.
Tomahawk didn't upload his battles, and so I sort of like algorithmed it so that like it tried to show off as many people as possible while putting emphasis on the people that did upload their battles. Um, and so like the emphasis wasn't on Tomahawk. I also took myself out of the equation because I was like, I'm going to put up a YouTube video after with all of my battles, so I don't need to be on stream. And so we
Mm,
ended up with like 10 matches for stream.
Mhm.
And I looked at the sort of people that weren't being streamed, which was only 4 of us. It was me, Tomahawk, Lou the Pikachu, and Koenig Lionheart,
Mhm.
which was a bit of a miscomm on my part because it turned out that he had uploaded them to the wrong folder. So
Ah.
they existed. He thought he'd uploaded them, but not where I could see them. But
Mm.
anyway, I then looked at the 4 people left, and I was like, oh, I played Tomahawk, so I can actually we can actually fit in an 11th battle without sort of getting in the way of anyone
Mm.
else. So yeah, I yoinked the win against Tomahawk instead of Fishy Legs being on stream. So but really, it's Tomahawk's fault for not uploading his battles because if he uploaded them, then maybe we'd be singing a different tune. But alas,
So
we
I
are where
think
we
next
are.
time Fishy Legs gets RPS, just don't upload.
It's this. I actually intentionally try to not lay it out that clearly during the upload process because I didn't want that to happen. I wanted people to like still upload their losses. But look, it got there in the end. It was a pretty cool
Mm, mm,
stream.
mm, mm.
You
Mhm.
can watch the VODs back of both the week 1 and the week 2 final stream on the YouTubes. Just you can probably type in Clash of the Casters on YouTube. Actually, we'll do the research live. Clash of the Casters. Hey,
What,
it comes up. So
what do you need from us, Steve? How do we help your algorithm?
I mean, really, it's just if you see the thumbnail on YouTube ever, click, always click,
Okay,
especially on the
okay.
homepage. That's the
Mhm.
best way. But anyway,
Okay.
um, so that was a cool tournament that sort of took place, and I look, I did fine. I threw quite a few battles in my time, but I learned. Um, so uh, you can also watch those the battles back on youtube.com/PvP Steve. Uh,
Mhm, mhm.
how many plugs can we fit into one podcast episode? That's the big question.
I reckon the amount of plugs that we've had so far is probably longer than the last podcast that we did.
Yeah, that would be true.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. All for you. Talking about plugs and talking about podcasts.
Oh yeah. Well, the other bit of news that people may or may not have heard in the last couple months is that I I'm cheating on the G'day Battlers podcast.
He's cheating on
It's,
me, guys. I knew
it's
it.
we're not dating.
Apparently,
It's-
we're married.
oh yeah, that's true. It's been assumed before. it's but yeah, in addition to the G'day Battles podcast, I've become one of the 4 hosts of the Battle Cats podcast. So originally it was Caleb and Zionic, then it was Caleb and Speediest Chief, then it was Caleb and Anacor. What is Caleb doing to scare off all of these co-hosts?
Gosh.
I don't know, but I'm gonna find out with my reporter mind firsthand because it's now Caleb plus me plus T Wastel plus Hurricane Kaz for a 4-person cast so that when someone eventually leaves and runs away for the hills, there'll still be some other co-hosts to soften the blow.
Is this the plan? Is this Caleb's strat? Going,
Well,
we're
I
gonna have more this time, so then like it's subtle on the way out.
look, I'm just assuming. Like it just seems logical from where I'm sitting. That's
I'd love to see
probably
a coup happen and just like you guys just make Caleb go.
I don't
Like we
know.
outnumber you. We got three. Three gets one.
He's got all the passwords, man. I don't know if we can manage.
I'm sure
Uh,
you can make your own Zencaster account.
yeah, I mean, I did give him a tip and trick or two when it comes to the
Mm,
Zencaster recording, but
mm.
that's on the DL. But anyway, yeah, so that's going ahead as well. It don't expect the G'day Battlers podcast to go anywhere because obviously we'll still be here, especially to shine that spotlight on the Australian scene. I will say the G'day Battlers podcast recording times much more convenient than Battle Cats.
We'll see.
What do you mean we'll see? I I don't know what that
Depends how long.
means.
Depends how long this
Oh,
one goes for.
yeah, that's true. If we go
Mm.
too much longer, we're gonna go past my bedtime. So
Oh, true.
let's 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 keep that in mind.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's over there. It's been a pretty good time as well. I guess I won't spoil the result of the bet that we just had because it's only just like when this episode is uploaded, it's only been like 2 days since the Battle Cats episode was uploaded, but let's just say I've been playing more GBL than usual because of
Mm,
the Battle Cats podcast. So
mm.
definitely tune into that if you're keen. We did a series that, and I had Caleb named this himself, but he called it the Road to Worlds series, which I
Oh,
don't
that
know.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, it sounds terribly familiar from something. I don't know what,
So
but
what I'm hearing is that not only did they steal you, that they stole our title
mm, I, look,
that we had
next,
since last year.
next thing you know, I think they're going to start putting Yakovovich in the titles of this of the Battle Cats podcast because uh, mm, there's only a few things left to nab.
Ah, I knew it. This was a launching platform all along.
Uh, it all comes out.
Yeah.
Um, hey, I'm glad that there's a bit of an oceanic representation on that podcast
Yes.
now, because like they did
Yes.
have Anacor, who was like staying in Australia for quite a few months,
Mhm.
um, and but he mostly only talked about Oceania when it was like when a tournament had just happened, which
Mm-mm-mm.
is the logical times to talk about it, but not here. We talk about it all the time
I'm just
because
glad Hurricane Kaz is on it, so there's some female representation finally.
yeah, she's great.
Mm.
Also, I'd never.
Mhm.
I don't think I'd ever like casted with her or anything before.
Mhm.
I might have produced a stream that she was casting on once, but we really didn't
Mhm.
interact that much. So, but like I've seen her casting all sorts of things in the past year, especially.
Mhm.
Especially Sosa Flows had her casting quite a bit of stuff, and yeah, she's great.
Mm. I love her
Call me a
drawings.
Kazdan. Oh my
And
gosh, the art too. Yeah,
mhm. I
she
also
does
love that she loves
the.
birds.
Yeah, I mean, you need something to be interested in, and hers comes out with passion, which is sick.
Mhm.
But yeah, she does the Battle Cats thumbnails as well. Like she, draws them all, and they're great.
Mm.
She's one talented lady. So,
Can we poach
uh,
her?
what, we do a
Since
host
we're
exchange?
yeah. It's just like, foreign exchange students. It's okay. Like we're just borrowing them, right?
Okay, I mean, Debbie, I have just had the thought. It's popped into my mind. We could also have our thumbnails be our own MS Paint art, which, I mean,
I mean, like with your Clodsire, and then I've got a catalog of like MS Paint art. Like I'm sure we can figure out
true.
something. Next season. Next season.
Okay.
There's a
Speaking of
lot.
next season,
It's a lot
well,
happening for next season.
yeah, maybe we actually steal something from the Battlecast podcast when we go into the next
Oh,
season. So
mm.
stay tuned for that, because that'll be.
Are we stealing Caleb?
Oh, I was more talking about the format, but that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I knew,
yeah,
but I was
like, just
hopeful.
checking. I
Can we
mean,
take Dumbledore?
oh no, we'll run this thing. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
But that's all next time. I guess the only thing left to talk about in this pre-Worlds episode today is Worlds, because Debbie, we are both attending.
We are. And also, I want to just chip in here before I forget. And big, 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 big thank you to the Pokemon Company International, because both
Yes.
Steve and I are going as creators, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Second time round. And like, we
Woo.
had so much fun in Yokohama last year, that I cannot wait. Like, I'm like, literally today is Saturday. We're flying off like pretty soon. And yeah, it's just, I'm so excited. It's gonna be so much fun. It is, the Coachella of Pokemon. Like like I look forward to it now. Like I was like, oh, after a taste of last year, I'm just like, oh, I have to go to this. Like it's a non-negotiable. I'm like, I have to go. So
Yeah.
the
Like.
fact that it had a creator's pass was all the much sweeter as
Mm.
well. So yeah, it's all happening. Honolulu soon.
Yeah, very soon. And we're going to be there for a little bit over a week. It's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be a lot of stuff going on, stuff that we can talk about, stuff that we can't talk about, but it's all going to be super cool. Like you said, it does, it's so cool, and it's sort of like so must attend that I sort of regret not going to London Worlds now, but
Mm.
at least it saved quite a few grand for the piggy bank. So I'm not gonna complain too hard about missing that one. That's this as much as like Hawaii is not a cheap place to go, it's a lot cheaper than for us having to go all the way to Europe. So
Yeah, yeah,
we'll take it.
yeah. Until they announce it in Europe next Antarctica.
Yeah, which my money is on Europe for the record. I'm
Mm.
subscribing to the pattern theory of NA Europe, APAC, NA Europe, APAC from here on out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Look, I know that people are thinking that it might be in Dallas after the music drop of the playlist on Spotify, but like I'm just
yeah.
like, yeah, it's very much leaning towards that way. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what the
Oh,
rumors
actually,
are.
yeah,
Mm.
there was a leak of the 2026 Worlds, which would
Mm.
theoretically be back in the US. So maybe not.
Yes. I wouldn't bank on 3 years in a row in the US, but
Hmm.
who knows?
I guess we'll
Mm.
just have to wait and see. I mean, they'll announce it at the end of Worlds, presumably. That's what they've
Oh yeah,
historically
yeah.
done. So
Hmm.
we don't have to wait that long to find out. I guess. Maybe we know the 2025 Worlds location before we know any of the Australian regional dates.
It's most likely.
Well, it's actually what
Uh,
happened last year, isn't it? Because
oh,
we
I
did. I
think
don't
so.
at Worlds we didn't know that OCIC was cancelled yet.
Yes, that's true. It got announced like a, straight after or very close to.
Yeah, we pretty much got
Yeah.
home to the news in some ways.
Yeah, and they announced it in the dead of night when we were all sleeping.
Yeah, that's right. They announced it at like 2 a.m. Australia time, just so that
Yeah.
we'd all slowly wake up to the news and there wouldn't be one massive hit of outrage. It was just a
Yeah,
slow
yeah.
drip.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because everyone was so excited for the travel awards and like all the prize money being increased, not about OCIC getting cancelled at the
yeah.
cost of everything.
Yeah, they buried it under a lot of cool news too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I forgot
yeah,
about all
yeah.
that.
I was just like, Debbie remembers, okay.
I woke up really early that morning as well. I was up at like
Mhm.
3 a.m. and so I saw the news and was the only one awake and reading it. And so I was just like, oh, and then just waited
Mm,
for everyone else to wake up to the news as well. It's like, oh, hey, look at this.
mhm, mhm.
But anyway, yeah, Worlds this year is going to be super cool. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Mhm.
It's going to be a lot going on, and so I imagine
Yeah.
plans going to be pretty stacked.
Mhm.
And I certainly have content plans. I mean, I know that you do as well.
I was just like, was that a segue to like to make me say that I'm actually doing content?
Well, I mean, I figured if we lock you in early, then you have to do it, right? Like
Yeah,
that's.
I bought a new camera. I'm gonna use it. Definitely
Mhm.
we'll be making some content, some videos, maybe definitely some sort of content. So I think during Honolulu there'll be daily like Instagram stories. So if you want to have a look at that and what we're up to, Instagram's the way to go. Some Twitter stuff.
What's your at on Instagram?
Oh, my ad. Oh, I never plug myself.
I see. I wanted to, but I don't know your at on Instagram because I'm not on
uh
Instagram. I assume
yeah.
it's at Davey Pebble, right?
It is
Surely.
at Debbie Pebble. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's Debbie Pebble for pretty much everything except for
yeah.
my email because I lost the password.
Oh
so,
no.
so then I had to create one and have the Debbie Pebble one.
Oh, that all makes sense all of a sudden.
Oh. Anyway, yeah. So we'll have that there, and then when I'm home, then I'll start like making some YouTube content out of the few things. I'm kind of thinking. My plan was in Japan to have like a day one, day two, make a little thing, like a 10-minute thing, and then like day three to day four, make another thing. But we'll see if that plan goes ahead for Honolulu. It might just be one big video. It might just be small, like several small ones. I
Mm,
don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll just
alright,
record and then kind of plan it when I get home.
fair enough. I'm much more of a forward planner in that, like going into the Japan vlog that I did, it was very much like scripted in my head from the get go. Like it's going to be this, and then it's going to be this, and then it's going to be this. And so like every time I recorded something, it was like I know, like I'm filling one of the gaps. Like this is where it goes. It was
Mm.
all very linear and thought out. But this time, I'm intending to do two vlogs at once. Um,
Oh.
they're both going to like they'll start and finish at like the same point. And they'll start at the
Mm.
start of Worlds, they'll end at the end of World. Well, like the start of the week, they'll end at the end of
Mhm.
the week, and so it's going to be a slightly different challenge. And that I'm still pretty much going to be pre-planning how it's going to go.
Mhm.
I need to do some scribbling between now and when we fly out, or maybe on the flight to sort of map
Maybe
it
on the
out in my head.
train.
Oh, true. I've got a 3.5 hour train trip first.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe on the train. But yeah, I've got some thinking to do, but I've sort of got some rough ideas in my head as to how they're going to go, but I'm looking forward to them. I think they're going to be pretty cool. I'm very excited about one in particular because it's new. Um, I am intending to pretty much do the same thing as I did last year in terms of like having
Mhm.
the sort of general vlog throughout, and then I'll be
Mhm.
doing a challenge video. So we'll
Mm.
see how it goes.
Mhm. It'll be good. I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of all the bits, right? Like we've talked about things that have happened over the last couple of months. We talked about the
Mhm.
Worlds qualification stuff. We talked about Worlds. Obviously, we'll come back after Worlds and sort of do a bit of a recap episode, talking all about that. Hopefully, we'll have an Australian champion, so that they're or New Zealand champion, so they're
Mhm.
forced to come on the podcast. Um,
Again.
because they've been on at least once, whoever they are, if they're from the Oceania region.
Mhm.
So yeah, but other than that, actually we do have a surprise. Cheeky little
Oh.
surprise for those of you that have listened all this way. Now, the last episode we did, we had Yakko on, and obviously, it was a bit of a meme. It was a good episode, I think. Definitely worth watching, as we talked about before. But some people out there were maybe unhappy that we didn't really get to interview Yakko. We didn't really get to hear his thoughts on stuff. And obviously you could go back and watch the hour and a half episode we did from the Melbourne regional, or the hour and a half episode we did for the Brisbane regional. But uh, we figured we'd get Yakko back onto the podcast. Ask him those hard hitting questions that everyone does want to know. So I mean, we are also at the sort of end of the podcast bit as well. So, Debbie, I think I'm just going to essentially pass it over to you.
All right, Yak, are you ready?
No, but go ahead.
Okay. When you arrive in Honolulu and you go through the Pokemon Center, what is the one thing you're going to buy?
And
Oh.
no, mug.
Mug.
Okay. Thank you so much for your insight, Yakko. But that is all we have time for. So thanks for coming on the podcast again, locking in one in a series of a long list of episodes that Yakko has joined the podcast for. But with that said, thank you all for listening to the G'day Battlers podcast. Don't forget to follow us in all of the places, especially subscribe on the G'day Battlers YouTube, because we have a dream that one day we get up to 1,000 subscribers so that we can, monetize the podcast and pay for the hosting service that we are well in the hole with. Look, it's a stretch to say the least, but hey, it would be nice if you subscribe, because as soon as we hit 1,000, then yeah, that money hole can start to be filled. But with that said, yeah, all the socials on the X as well, and we will catch you. Well, for those of you that are going to be attending Worlds, good luck, and we will see you there. Pretty excited. And then we'll be back with another episode of the G'day Rattlers podcast right after Worlds. So, yeah, take care. Bye.
Aloha.
Oh, aloha. Aloha. That first one was hello. Now that's goodbye. I was just locking it in.
Just making sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Ciao.